And in fact, you'll see at the end of this next episode, this episode's called Daredevil, because he's riding a motorcycle in it, but it's also mixed with our last podcast footage. We were talking about Evel Knievel.
Yep.
And so we're talking about this idea of Evel Knievel coming out. I'm telling him at the end, I said, Evel Knievel comes out at a time when America needed him. We had assassinations, Vietnam, Cultural Revolution, the riots. People say it's never been this bad. It was bad in the 60s. So America was brutalized as a country during the 1960s. And in the 70s, it needed a hero.
Yeah.
And here comes this white knight.
Literally
jumping
on the
cars and all of these things, and celebrating the American flag and all of this sort of stuff. And I said, Mac, all to say is we need heroes right now. And Mac, you need to be that hero. You're that, in your way, you have to be that Evel Knievel,
He is.
So one of the ways we try to differentiate the podcast and the vlogs and all that we do is to give it that higher purpose, not just Second Amendment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not just, freedom. Those are wonderful. Those are important things, but they're very limited, right? And they're only hot topics now. So it has to be based on something fuller, something richer, that also makes greater sense of our professional relationship. So in other words, when Mac and I come together, the universe did not bring Mac and I together in order to defend the Second Amendment.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not what it's for. I'm not bad mouthing that. We support it, but that's not the mission. The mission is about creating true success, which I would define as to maximize all that you are, all that you can do for a purpose greater than yourself. There's a movie called The Pursuit of Happiness. It's in our founding documents.
Yep. I'm
more of a pursuer of fulfillment. It's a deeper, lasting form of happiness. Because happiness is, I got a new car, I'm happy. My car got stolen, I'm unhappy.
Tony Robbins.
You're right. We want something deeper and lasting. So fulfillment. I love the word fulfillment because it has the word full and the word fill in it. It means being deeply satisfied, right? Deeply satisfied is fulfillment. You're not going to get fulfillment by achieving a position or having a certain amount of money or marrying an individual. The only way you're going to get achievement is if you maximize all that you are, meaning as a person, personality, character, someone that you can go to sleep with at night, right? You maximize all that you are. In other words, you are actively working on your personal development, attitude, outlook, everything, and maximize all that you can do, skills, interests, knowledge, experience. Do those two things to serve a purpose greater than yourself, you will be fulfilled.
There it is, CJ. And I'm sure you're more than intelligent enough to figure out why, but right there it is why you guys are a success and symbiotic. I'm a crayon guy, so I just saw the crayons there.
Right.
Literally, Pat Mac is trained by this government to be all that he can be, skill wise, right. And you've got all those other skills that yin to his yang, all that you can do, and then you've come together. I honestly think that's why. If that,
you're right.
In a nutshell.
Right. Yeah, when I teach on branding, I'll do marketing seminars and stuff, and I'll teach on branding, and I'll tell people, branding is not a logo. Branding is not when your website matches the decals on your work truck. That's not branding. Those are expressions of branding.
Yeah.
Branding is not a cereal box or a soup can label. Those are expressions. Branding is when ideas take form, right? A brand. Because a brand is like when you brand cattle, it's an indelible mark left on the mind. Branding happens here, not visually, it happens in the mind. And so branding is when the word becomes flesh, when it's incarnated, when an idea is incarnated, that's when you have real and powerful branding, when ideas take physical form. So you can't separate get you some from the man.
Exactly.
You can't separate metal up from the man.
Yeah.
You become the incarnations of these things. That's why you're still talking about Jesus this many years later. He's the Logos, right? The Word made flesh.
Yeah.
This idea of God made in physical form, regardless of your beliefs about that, any one of those particular things, that's the psychological process that's happening.
The brand, yeah, of course.
So you want to own, and I speak this just even for you, for what you're doing with on your own personal project.
Thank you.
Is to secure your brand, to secure your piece of mental real estate. And the brand is the big idea. It's the idea that's driving what you do. So you mentioned the idea that drives us, right? I tell people this way. I said, unless you have an idea, a strong idea, driving what you're doing, then you're like a champion surfer trying to catch a wave on a freshwater lake.
Yep.
Right? The only way you go anywhere is by paddling hard. And that's how most brands compete. Price, posting the same stuff everybody else is. There's nothing original to it. They try to use gimmick, shticks, wearing the same color all the time, just whatever they can rely on, because there's no big idea driving. You'll know you have a big idea when it demands more of you than you can give it. Mac and I should have probably more books. By now, I will film a short. I'll do a film with Mac. Right. Because the guy who does the vlogs is my son.
Yes, I saw.
Who does the film editing. So he's very, very capable. So we should have these many other things. Mac should have his children's book. Mac should have all this other stuff. Right? When the idea demands more of you than you can give it, of your time and energy, you know you're on the right track.
Yeah, you're on the big wave. That's a great analogy.
Right, you're riding the wave. So I told people, I said, listen, I wish I could take credit for being this smart to come up with something like this. But if you want to credit Mac and I for anything, credit us that we're still standing on the surfboard. We haven't been knocked off yet. That's about all you can credit us for.
There's, again, back to Brandon Webb, author of at least 10 books that I read. No. I don't read books. I'm a busy guy. Audiobooks.
Yeah, right.
And one of his was life-changing, not only for the person that he wrote it about, but also for one of our boys. And it's just to tie in with what you said. If you're a sniper, you have a target. You're literally shooting at the target. Right. But if you're a business person, you don't have a target. And this was coming back to, well, when he got asked, well, how much money did he make per year? And he didn't have a target. They just looked at him and went, man, that doesn't make sense. Look at you. You're a Navy SEAL sniper instructor. You knew what you're going to shoot. So you got to have the target, and you've fleshed it out much more when something's bigger than you can basically handle.
Yeah.
I love it. CJ, I'd like to finish up on you. And there's something hopefully you've never been asked before. We'll see how I go. You're old, man, because you're older than me.
Yeah.
And you're a metal dude. You're healthy as hell. Tell the listeners and me, because I love learning from everybody. Tell us, how do you stay healthy? What do you do for exercise, and what do you do for food? Because obviously it works. You are not the typical, and when I said old, I'm baiting that hook. The average metal guy your age is not in your shape, man. So talk to us. What do you do to be CJ?
I've always tried to eat right, but it was really more in years past, kind of a quasi bodybuilders thing, the macros about protein and carbs and, whatever.
Yep.
Everything changed in January of 2016. Because by then, at the end of December, I was just really dragging and wasn't feeling well. And I couldn't figure out what it was. Long story short, I discovered the ketogenic diet.
Right.
And so this January will be, what is that? It'll be, I'll be starting my 6th year. 6 years on the keto diet. So I would say, nutrition-wise, ketogenic diet and intermittent fasting would be the key to everything. And I'll tell people to this day, brother, because they'll call to do some one-on-one coaching. And I'll tell them, and I don't apologize for this. I know it can sound cruel, and I know it means I won't get them on as a client. I don't care. I said, I am not going to do coaching with you. I will not do coaching with you unless you are willing to immediately change your nutrition and start physical fitness.
Dude, me and a lot of the people on the show, we say the biology creates a psychology. So you've nailed it.
Yep. I won't even do it. I said, and the reason why I said is because what you'll find out is after a few months of doing it, especially if you follow the keto diet, about half of those psychological issues that you're calling me about will disappear, and you'll probably realize you don't need me.
Yeah.
So that's how much when I tell people about the keto diet, I tell them I'm demeaning it by calling it a diet. You are changing your fuel source, for God's sake. This is not a diet. This is changing the core of your physical experience on this planet. Because up until now, you have lived on glucose.
Exactly.
You have lived on sugar. We are going to change the fuel source, which is going to change your brain. It's going to change your gut. It's going to change metabolism. It's going to rebuild things. It's going to do so much of your life is going to change. Your outlook on life is going to change. Everything is going to change. We're not going to focus on losing weight. The weight will come off because you're going to be healthy, and healthy bodies aren't fat. So keto diet, I'm religious about it. Intermittent fasting takes it to another level. Because I'll get the people who are trying out the keto diet, and when they start asking, I said, if you start asking me about recipes or what can I eat on a cheat day, I said, you ain't ready.
Yeah.
You're not ready. I said, I don't want to hear anything. I said, I don't have recipes. I eat the same thing most of the time because I'm only eating 2 meals. And I want those particular food. I've got 4 eggs. I've got ground beef mixed in there. I've got a whole avocado. My thing is covered with Himalayan salt. I've got 3 big strips of bacon. That's my first meal. I've got bulletproof coffee. My second meal, I'll have a shit ton, 7 to 10 cups of fresh greens,
Yes.
not iceberg lettuce.
Yes.
Fresh greens. And that I'll add to that a protein, fatty protein, and olive oil and red vinegar and feta cheese crumbles and green olives and bacon bits and the likes. And I said, and that's it. And it's eaten all within a 6-hour window. And then we ain't eating anything after that. And you don't want to eat anything.
You don't need to as well.
You don't need to. And so your body's going to love it. And I said, then after that, I do training wise, I train here at home. And mine is a little odd because it's I talking to you, what do I need to explain? Holy crap. It's like talking to Mac about this. You get the eclectic type thing.
Sure.
Like Mac, for example, is big on, functional training.
Yep. Good
right?
movement.
So very non-bodybuilding.
Yep.
So he's not thinking about aesthetics at all because you're gifted with aesthetics, bro. So I do more things that are more hypertrophy related, maybe than he would, but that doesn't mean I don't ignore the transverse plane. So I will use bands. I will use these other things and move my body, but I don't do the things that he does because I'm not the example that he is. I'm not the, he's writing the textbook on it. So he's got to, literally live it. But he's also influencing a lot of law enforcement, fire, military, who are going to be, throwing things on top of Humvees, and they need to be able to do that. Yeah. So I do things differently. And whereas a traditional type of bodybuilding would be, they typically focus on heavy or moderate type of lifting and that sort of thing, because which one is going to stimulate type 2, type 1 muscle fibers and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like with the dog thing that we talked about before we started. I put so much on the relationship with the dog, more than lifting heavy to build. I focus solely on mind muscle connection.
I like
Mind
you
muscle
on my show.
connection. Yeah, mind muscle connection and constant muscle tension.
Yep.
So that enables you to use lighter weights.
Yep.
Because and obviously reduces the potential for injury.
Yep.
So it's about you're almost meditative in a way.
Well, it is
Every
meditation.
movement.
You're focusing on one single thing, and movement
Yeah.
can be meditations. You're exactly right.
Yeah. So like if I'm doing something that might involve pectorals or something, my thought is in every single bit of the concentric and eccentric movements, the flexing. People say, well, and be sure to flex for a second at the top. No, I don't flex for a second at the top. I go Superman. I envision it. It's like Arnold would talk about he would see his biceps as mountain peaks.
Yes.
In other words, he went hyperbolic. He exaggerated it. Right? Because if you aim beyond the target, you'll reach that goal.
Exactly.
Right? Always aim way beyond what you're trying to get to. So that's what's going on in me mentally. And then I'm focused on constant muscle tension, constant tension. But then also, because I'm not lifting as heavy, I will train certain parts of my body more frequently.
Yep.
Or someone will say, no, your body grows during rest. Yes, I know the body grows during rest, but I'm not Phil Heath. You know what I mean? I'm not
for a while.
What's his name from the UK who won
Dorian
Yates. I'm not that sick bastard who's destroying muscle that needs 7 days to recover.
Yeah.
I may be doing 2 different versions of a squat type thing, and then something more focused on my hamstrings. But it's lighter weight, mind muscle connection, constant tension. I can do it again in a couple of days.
Great.
And I say, I'm not using the bodybuilder as my example. I'm using the football player, the soccer player, because look at their legs. Yeah. Look at the sprinter's legs. They're running every day. They take maybe a weekend off, but they're training their body. If the bodybuilder was doing that, they would kill themselves. So, but the reason is because the footballer or the rugby player is running all day in sprint-like fashion. So he's building the quads and the hamstrings. So it is that constant muscle tension.
Yep.
Right. And so he's still able to do it day in and day out and not worry about recovery.
Yeah.
Right. So
that's
I don't know if this makes any sense.
So CJ, you're making sense, but that's functional in itself. It's dysfunctional to do one exercise program today and then be ruined for days. What you're doing is functional, because then you would be able to do that if you were called to do so.
Yeah, like I'll do like if I say I'm gonna do heavier emphasis on my legs today, so I'll start doing just dumbbell type squats, right? And so I'm very focused on movement, posture, and everything is critical. Where my feet are placed, so I have to maximize the fact, because I'm doing this in a bedroom with Bowflex dumbbells.
Yeah.
So I have to maximize the other thing. I can't focus on equipment and location. I got to focus on mind muscle connection, movement, placement, posture, and all of that. But I'll do that, and then I'll immediately go to the floor and do push-ups. Again, mind muscle connection, holding it at the top, and then I'll immediately do pull-ups. And then I start that cycle again.
Yep.
So I never do a single exercise and rest in between doing nothing.
Yep.
Even if the other exercise is the abs, even if the other exercise is just doing some lateral raises or something, it doesn't matter. I never just do one thing and then rest, because I want that heart rate up, and I'm not training with massively heavy weights. So nobody needs to be worried about me. There's nothing wrong with my joints. The muscle responds extremely well, and everything's full. Again, Mac is not a big bodybuilder type. He used to do all that stuff, but he's like yourself, he has the genetics. But the way I look at it is, yeah, but dude, you know what? It's nice to have the rear deltoid rounded.
Yeah.
Nothing is so weak as to have no rear deltoid and at everything in the front.
Yeah.
You need that. And so like something that I'll do all the time that I always mix in. I probably do these, I don't know, 4 out of the 6 days is I'll do shrugs. I just do shrugs, and I'll do neck tight stuff just because it's all an optical thing. But it just beefs things up where I want them to be beefed up, because I want to walk to some in front of people or whatever and say, I'm 55 years old. And they look and they say,
No.
what the hell happened to you? Do you color your hair? No. So I went to my 30th reunion a few years ago.
Yeah.
They hated me, brother. They hated me. But for exercise, that's what I'll do. And I train most every day. I'll do something, but I will train fasted. That's the first thing I'm doing in the morning after my devotional type reading times. And then I will train. And then I will take my dog on a 2.5 mile fast walk.
Awesome.
Right. So there's some more cardio, and that's rain or shine, freezing cold. I don't care. Snow, it doesn't matter. I'm out there in the elements. And so I'm getting 2 hours worth of training in pretty much every day.
Which sounds again natural, organic. That's what a human should be doing is that movement. That food is fuel you're talking about, and that movement is life,
Yeah. And so, like, for example, you talk about audiobooks. That's a great way to work through the audiobooks and things like that. And what I like to do oftentimes is, again, I always want to maximize what I'm doing. So I always, to me, taking the mind to the gym is even more important. As religious as I am about food and training, I'm even more extreme about my mind. So what I will do is when I am training, or oftentimes when I am walking, is I will force my mind to think in a certain way. I will force a monologue. And in order to do that, I'll have to integrate it into the training.
Yeah.
So I will count aloud in my head, but I won't just say 1, 2. I'll go 1, we're kicking the shit out of this. 2, it's because I'm a champion. 3, I'll take no prisoners. 4, and then when I'm in between catching my breath and I'm like, I'm in this to win this. I will push, I will strive, I will push, I will stress, I will strive to be my best. No rest for the wicked. And I'll just say words: dominant, aggressive, winning, achieve. Just keep making my mind. I do not allow myself to drift. I'm not allowed to drift. So I have to keep my mind going during that time, and then force myself during the dog walk to have a monologue with myself where I will say the same thing.
It's super important. Mentally, I did this stuff when I was young. I'm just trying to look back, trying to get the notes from the show.
Yeah, so it's a great way. Here's the way I call it crowding out the evil.
Yes.
And because when I have a big lawn here in North Carolina, and weeds are always a problem, right? They grow all by themselves, so weeds are all in the grass.
Yep.
So I would, try to get the weed poison out there and spray them or try to dig them up or something. And a friend of mine who's a lawn expert, he said, "You're wasting your time." He goes, "You want to beat the weeds?" I said, "Yes, please tell me how. What do I need to use?" He goes, "Flood your yard with healthy grass and you'll drive out the weeds." That's why I do my mind that way. I'm flooding my yard up here with healthy thinking. And so there's no room for worry. There's no room for self-defeat. There's no room for pain.
This is probably the most powerful thing to end on that many have been in the show, but super powerful for someone listening to part 2, the mental management. And that was a term I was trying to get from Brandon Webb. He redesigned the Navy SEAL sniper program. Before him, it was literally kicking ass on the students of the course. These are decent SEALs, special forces guys, and these guys are getting screamed at and belittled and all this stuff. When he basically complained about that process, they end up kicking that guy out and then putting him in charge. And he brought all these tools that you're saying in your ways, CJ, that positive psychology, that mental management, the the great pretender, I call it, or John Kehoe. Sorry, I won't claim it.
Yeah.
John Kehoe, great mind power guy. The imposter, you're putting into your mind what you want to happen, and it's your choice. That's what you've been saying. You choose your thoughts. These other ones will crop up, but you're going to crowd it out because you're putting in your thoughts that you've decided to have. And it was brilliant the way you explained how you're training, and using that for your mindfulness, for your meditation, essentially the focus on a singular thought, but then taking that as actual practice. And that's the practice of focus, or practice of concentration. Again, John Kehoe talks about that in Mind Power, the ability to focus on one single thought. We can choose a thought and put it in the brain, and then boom, it's gone, because you're like a little kid.
Right.
But you're challenging yourself over that 2.5 mile walk, focus. You're teaching yourself concentration. That's clearly part of what's got you to where you are and your success.
Yeah, one of the things that I do the same thing, and we could probably talk something like this for hours, but we talked about the mind muscle connection.
Yep.
It's the same thing. I don't think this really states it accurately, but I'll say, to make it easy, it's the mind thought connection. But when I say mind muscle, you know what that means. You know, it's more than just, you're not just lifting, you are literally connecting with your muscle to get even more contraction, more result from each repetition, right?
Yeah.
So you understand that concept. It's the same thing with when I do my thinking. It's not just a ticker tape of audio playing. I'm really connecting to when I say, I believe this. So I'm really feeling it. And what I'll often do, gets into the spiritual side, but I just do it. People can call it magical thinking. I don't care, but I'll walk out. I bless things. So when I walk outside with my dog, I'll do more of this mind stuff. And I take my dog out. Her name is Derby, beautiful German Shepherd. And I say, Derby, from the tip of your nose to the end of your tail, you are blessed. You are blessed. I speak blessing over you. Every joint will work perfectly. There will be no cancer. There will be no hip dysplasia. You are fruitful. You will live the fullness of your days. And I speak to the home and the property and the bushes, over my kids' life, over the business, over anything. I just speak. Well, you're thinking magically. So what? It's got to be better than the worry bullshit you consume your mind with. I'd rather think like this, but I believe. But you know what? I see doors open. I see that apostolic mantle go into place, that following of the bliss, that faith to move mountains, right? If you, God calls things which be not as though they were. So he called Abraham the father of many nations 90 years before he had his kid. And he was an old man, unable to have children. But God calls those things which be not as though they were. And I call them as I see them. Or it's like an old pastor friend of mine years ago, they were in a big building project. And so they were tearing up the land. And it was a huge endeavor, and trucks everywhere and all that. So he would go by the job site, the building site, every day with his little 5-year-old boy.
Yep.
And they'd stand out with the boy, and he would sometimes point to all this work going on. And he said to his son, son, what do we call this? And his son says, Dad, we call this done.
Oh, wow.
We call it done. And so that way of just programming yourself, that even in the midst of pain, of sorrow, of COVID, of financial setback or unemployment, or recently divorced or separated or anything, you can create your own paradise, because your feelings are going to follow the direction of your consistent thoughts. And you're not lying to yourself. It's truth. It's truth. Yeah, COVID's a bad thing. Yeah, politics can be shitty. Yep. It's still, I can still reach over, flip the switch, and turn on lights. Shit's good, man. I've got refrigerated food downstairs.
Yeah.
I can set the temperature to my liking. I'm safe. If COVID and Joe Biden and all is all I got to deal with, honey, it's never been this good. Go back 500 years and tell me what the average person's life was like under tyrannical kings and constantly under threat of tribe and barbarian and Viking and war and sickness, where you were lucky to live past 30. It's never been this good. You should be, your whole head should be Disneyland, for God's sake.
Thoughts, you create your thoughts, you're in charge of them, your thoughts create your feelings, and you've taken it to a level that I haven't listened to someone talk about for some time. Like I said, John Keogh was where I trained my mind, or I use that stuff, that's seeding, the visualization. And I love your passion, and that's where it is epitomized, because you have that belief. And that was the question I let me get it right. You know, the intent was to see from a civilian's perspective how they view SF guides and positive and negatives around that. I think that's why you're sort of answering the question and how you are, because you have that self-belief and that self-drive, and that's what we have, unmitigating self-belief. CJ, look, thank you so much for being on the show. I've done a two-parter once in the 3 years, so this is brilliant.
Awesome.
People listen to the show. They find you on Instagram under what?
Metal Motivator.
Metal Motivator. Awesome.
And then University of Badassery is where we post a lot of the mini vlog stuff. So if you want to see the cool stuff with me and Mac, it's on the University of Badassery. My personal metal motivation stuff is Metal Motivator. So
awesome. I'll pop it in the show notes as well. And for the Patreon sign up,
patreon.com/coaching squad.
Awesome.
And I'll say one more thing about the Instagram thing. Yeah. I show a lot of stuff on the Instagram for University of Badassery of Mac that is not shown on his channel. So for people who watch his channel or his Instagram, they see the workouts and the basic dude stuff.
Yep.
If you go to Badassery, you're going to see him more in everyday life type stuff, because that's where I'll show clips of the vlogs, and you'll see him in the podcast setting, you know, and that sort of thing. I do repost a lot of his workout and that sort of thing, but you'll see stuff that, like I just showed the other day, me and him eating lunch. Rebecca had cooked for us. I showed him how he walks his dog. I showed him in the hardware store talking to a guy, explaining why he's building a catapult in his backyard. You know,
trebuchet.
Yeah, trebuchet. Yeah, all of this sort of stuff. And so that gets shown there. It would clutter his page.
Yeah. So
we show it more on University of Badassery, so people might, you know, be more reason to also follow that page. But
and that's where you get that real insight, and that's connection. And it's probably why I do these so much, to connect and have that. There was a word I was thinking about an hour ago with you, is fellowship.
Yes.
It is a fellowship. Look, CJ, thank you so much for your time. It's been an honor having you on.
Thank you, man.
I'm honored to be able to have showcased you and
thank you.
Talked you through the journey of how you and Mac have created such a big thing for other people. You are giving out value and paying it forward. I want to thank you both for that as well.
It's an honor, Damien. Like I said, you're someone I'd brag about being friends with. Well, I know Damien. Well, Damien's a good friend of mine. So it's a pleasure. And again, I think that's, you know, again, like I said, it explains why Mac and I get along as well, and why he entrusts me as much as he does, because, you know, in a way, it's kind of like our little unit. It's just you have now this mutual challenging relationship and a commitment to excellence and teamwork and serving these larger purposes. Obviously nothing like what he was, but at least you're not around people that are, you know, mediocre, or people where you're like, yeah, iron sharpens iron, man. Strike and ignite. Yeah. So same thing here. And it is an honor. I've been very, very much looking forward to this and learning more about you and hearing from you. Of course, super excited that you're a keto guy and you're preaching the gospel of the ketogenic lifestyle, man. Because I sincerely believe it is, it's like a miracle drug, brother.
Oh, well, look, that's why one of the reasons I want to showcase your health side of things. It's working for you. Great. Look, thank you so much for those kind words. I get lost for words when people start giving back to me, but man, it's been great having you on the show. Love it. We have a chat offline. I'm looking forward to getting this out, and we'll get to the squad first before it goes public. So thank you again.
Sounds great. Good to be here.